Number one, we want to go over what to do if you are underpaid. All right. It's a recent article that came out on CNBC that detailed how people should operate if they feel like they overworked and underpaid. It's funny that you sent that super chat right before this, Carmen. Funny that you sent this super chat. Overworked and overpaid. Let's talk about it. I got some suggestions for y'all.
Only 34% of Americans are satisfied with how much they're paid at work.
I wish there was like an exact guide of what you should be paid and what everyone else should be paid. There's just not anything like that out there.
I was accepting crumbs because I thought it was a really huge deal that I was working for this major news organization. $40,000 was the most I've ever made in my life. So I thought it was what you're supposed to be earning at that stage in my career. What I have learned from that experience is closed mouths don't get fed, and always keep yourself educated.
Most of the time, the people who are paid more, it's just because they asked for it.
To get a salary adjustment can be really, really difficult to do. There are some employers who really want you to shake them down in the sense that they will match an offer if you get it from someplace else. It's a bad practice, but it is pretty common.
Sometimes it's easier to just jump ship.
Here's how to figure out if you're being underpaid and what you can do about it.
In 2016, I worked for a major news organization in ad sales as an account executive. I was an immigrant. I was here on DACA, so I was very appreciative of such an amazing opportunity. I was making $40,000 a year. I really thought that that was, a lot of money at the time until I had like a casual conversation with my coworker who was actually complaining about making about $102,000 a year. It never occurred to me until that conversation that I just, I was severely underpaid.
Around 1 in 20 workers in the U.S. said they would quit if they found out their coworkers earned more money than them, and 63% said they would demand equal pay.
You can certainly ask other people doing.
Am I seriously muted? I just cooked up a whole session for y'all. I literally just cooked up a whole session for y'all, and I was muted. All right, let's do this again. I'm not working in the office today. I'm doing a makeshift live stream because I forgot my keys and I lost my keys to the office, so I had to do a makeshift live stream today. But essentially, what I was helping y'all to understand is that you cannot lean into. Yeah, this new time. It's not the new time. It's the fact that I had to switch up for the office. Essentially, you can't lean into complaining that somebody else is making money in order for you to be able to use that as a negotiating or a bargaining chip. You cannot say that Larry over there making a whole bunch of money, or Larry is making double what I make, and so I want y'all to pay more money. You can't do that. You can't lean into that. Your negotiating or your bargaining chip is largely based off of you being able to say, this is the value that I bring into the organization. And so I'm now more valuable to you guys, and this is how much more value I'm going to bring. This is what I feel like, or this is what I think I should be making, or this is what I'm asking for from the organization. They're going to come back and they're going to have whatever it is that they pitch is or whatever. But you can never use somebody else as a bargaining chip in order to try to make a bag at your job. Conversely, this is one of the reasons why women often at times don't make as much as men, because men are more likely to walk away. For example, a lot of women don't even get money, or they don't take a job based off of desire. They take a job based off of duress. Meaning, I need the position, I'm gonna apply for the position, I'm happy to be here, and so this is the money that I'm gonna make. A lot of times they wait until they get laid off, or they wait until another opportunity come along, and then that's when they take another position. Men have a lot of times they overwork, and they're willing to leave earlier than being under duress. So for example, let's say for example, I don't need this position, and I talk about this like in an interview like a king. I don't need this position, right? And because I don't need this position, and I'm applying for a new job because at the 2 to 3 year mark, now I have some successes under my belt. I got some projects under my belt. I can speak to some experiences. Maybe I've leveled up in the company. Maybe I've taken on more responsibility or something like that. Now I'm going to leverage that at the 2 to 3 year mark because I'm looking for another position. It doesn't mean that I'm not willing to be promoted in the company that I have, but I'm looking to level up. And so I'm going to refine and make sure that my LinkedIn is set up and everything like that, right? And so I'm going to leverage the position that I have inside of the company in order to get a better position. They're going to pay you 20, 30, 40, 50% more going to a different company than they are going to pay you as far as staying. You get what you negotiate. You get what you negotiate, not necessarily what it is that you think somebody else is making and then you using that in order to get another position. At the 3-year mark, you should already started getting your stuff together. You should have your social media together, all of your Instagram, all of that, LinkedIn, resume, upgraded. Make sure that you updated your resume with all of the successes that you have, and you should be looking for a different position. They always gonna pay you more to leave than to stay. And when I see people that are with companies and they want to level up and they with these companies for 10, 20, 30 years, I already know that they ain't making bank. When I see people that are with these companies for 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 years and they haven't leveled up, I don't care what their position is. I know that they ain't getting no money. I know that they ain't getting no money because they there too long without leveling up. There's no way that you can exist at a company and you think that they're going to continue to keep your pay up with inflation, or it's not a new, younger model that's going to come in and replace you that's making way more than you. I'm always going to make way more than everybody else that is around me when I go into a new company, 100% of the time.
Doing similar jobs in your own organization, how much they're being paid. The question, though, is figuring out whether the people you're talking to are really...
Somebody said new employees expect the same pay as people that's been there longer. 100%. When I come into your organization, because you need me, you're going to overpay me for the perceived value that you think that I'm going to bring into the organization. Y'all need to readjust your mind. Change your mindset, bro. Change your mindset. It's not about seniority, it's about value. When you live in a capitalistic system and you don't have a union to protect you, so you're not going to just be the same as everybody else. I hated being in a union when I was working at the steel mill. I hated being in the union because the union basically prevented me from being able to be better than him because I knew that I could negotiate more and I brought more value. I'm not trying to be on the same level as everybody else. And I'm not trying to prevent the new dude from getting his bag. What I get don't have nothing to do with what he negotiate. That's completely separate. You have to change your mindset. It's not about, well, I've been here longer, so I should make more. It's about what you negotiate. It's about the value that you bring in. It's about the perceived value that the company sees in you based off of what it is that you can add into the company. Ain't nobody gonna make no more than money than me. I'm always gonna negotiate for the biggest. I'm gonna make them uncomfortable with the number that I asked for because I don't need you. And so if you want me, you're gonna have to overpay what you thought it was gonna take to get me. If you want me, you're going to have to overpay, and then I'm gonna over deliver, and then you're gonna have to pay to keep me because I'm going to get something else. Stop looking to compare yourself and start looking to elevate.
Doing the same job that you're doing in all ways that matter.
I was a really great account executive. I always hit or exceeded my quota quarter after quarter. At times, I can argue that I was actually doing a lot better than my counterpart that was earning significantly more than I was. I think the only difference between her and I is that she was a lot better at the political side of things.
60% of U.S. workers say they didn't negotiate for more money when they were last hired.
The difference between someone who gets $55,000 and $60,000, a lot of times is just because person number 2 just asked for $60,000. It's not because they're better at their job. It's not because they're more experienced. It is simply because they just asked for it.
Given the fact that I was an immigrant at the time on DACA, I was always thankful for just any opportunity that came my way. I was accepting crumbs. That experience has kind of pushed me to not accept crumbs and to always push and go after more in my life.
A discrepancy in pay between two comparable employees may be due to market conditions.
There's this issue that's called compression, and compression means that people are being paid differently on otherwise identical jobs because on what the job market happened to be like when they were hired. The big place we see this most commonly is people who've been hired a couple of years ago and then somebody new comes in and gets paid more than they are because the job market has tightened. Their skills are scarce now, and they're paid more than you are.
My initial reaction, I kept it calm, and I didn't want to allude to her that I made such little money compared to her. I kind of went back to the drawing board. I thought to myself, okay, clearly I'm underpaid. What am I going to do about it?
When you realize that you're underpaid, that is your green light to go do research.
The term underpaid shouldn't be used to compare you to a colleague. It should be compared to you and the market. There's
Exactly. And a lot of y'all think that y'all can compare yourselves to people that live out there in California. You can't.
always going to be a range in the market.
It's possible that an objective person might say you're wrong, that these pay differences are not really that different, or there's justifications
What up to
for
Love
them.
C? What up to everybody in
Compensation
the chat?
has a lot of different pieces
I'm gonna read super chat shortly.
to it. It's not just like a simple formula that's like years of experience equals this amount of money, education equals this amount of money, and location equals this amount of money.
In addition to speaking to people in your industry, you can do research online. One way is through referencing salary ranges listed on similar
Use
job
Glassdoor
descriptions.
too.
There are states and cities that have transparency laws on pay that require the employer to report or make available what they're paying. But the caveat to that is that what they end up reporting are typically salary ranges for a job.
When you see a range, and I think I see this with my clients and I see this with candidates, they automatically think, well, I deserve the high end. Like, that's just natural. But that's where the disconnect becomes between the candidate wanting the high end and the company knowing, well, that range is not actually true.
I would say that when recruiters and hiring managers and companies are putting those numbers up, it's always with the expectation you're probably going to fall somewhere in the middle. Usually the range that they put is the minimum and what's likely the highest that they are willing to pay for that position. Even with sites like Glassdoor, Indeed, Blind, Levels.fyi, Salary.com, built in, and I use all of these as data points for compensation, but the best way to find that data is really by like tracking the jobs that you're applying to and looking at those salary ranges, right? Especially if it's in your location, because location is such a big data point when it
I literally just said that. It's much different in California than it is going to be in Ohio or Michigan.
comes to compensation. And sometimes I'll have people who will look at positions that for the states that are required to post salaries like New York and California, which are really, really high cost of living areas. And they'll be like, okay, well, this customer success position is paying $170,000. Yeah, it's paying $170,000 for a unicorn company in California, but you live in Tempe, Arizona, which is probably not going to pay the same amount.
At the end of the day, companies are teams and they're going to pick the best players for the best value.
I decided to continue on as if nothing ever happened, as if I haven't heard anything, and do some market research just to understand how much it is that I am worth, given my experience, what experience that I've had in the past that's transferable, and then take that research with me onto finding a brand new job.
One option, if you suspect you're being underpaid, is to request a salary adjustment from your employer. But career experts say you should go into the conversation prepared.
You should never bring up another coworker's name in that conversation.
I literally just said that. And I'm reviewing this for the first time, just like y'all. Never, ever, ever under any. Now, this is another. I've always said that snitching is only one way, but I forgot this way. Let me add this caveat. Snitching for people that do crime is you do a crime, I do a crime with you, you get caught, and then you tell on me in order to get yourself out of the crime. Does not apply to regular residents, civilians, or the people that you did the crime against. Snitching also applies in the workplace. So, in order to prevent yourself from getting snitched on, A, keep your mouth shut. Listen, it is important for you to make friends with Kool-Aid. It is also important for you to network effectively and make sure that you are a cultural fit in the place that you are, because that is the fastest way to get promoted. But do not, under any circumstances, talk about the amount of money that you're making at your employer with another employee, because there is nothing good that can come from it. Zero, zilch, nada. Don't talk about your bonus. Don't talk about your base pay. Do not talk about how much money you're gonna get in equity. Don't talk about none of that. Nothing ever. Listen, rule number one is never ever under any circumstance talk about. Then you ain't got to worry about getting snitched on. Never under any circumstance talk about how much money that you are making with somebody else, because it's A, going to create animosity, and B, it's going to get you tired. It's going to get you jammed up. Facts. Never. You ain't got to worry about somebody bringing up your name.
conversation. You shouldn't say, I had a conversation with Henry. I know we're the same experience and the same skills. I realize that he gets paid 20% more than me. I want the same salary as him.
So when you go for that salary adjustment, you want to bring in other data points, and those data points need to be the impact that you brought to the company. Because at the end of the day, they could just find somebody else who's cheaper to do your job as well.
I think what you want to avoid is escalating this to threats, which is easy to do. So once you start saying, this is not fair, other people elsewhere are making more than I am, hint, 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 they're thinking, okay, she's threatening to leave. Your employer might very well say things like, there are other people who would love to have a job like this. Then they're also suggesting that you could end this relationship. And that is really dangerous territory to go into. So I would avoid that almost at all costs.
One of the ways, I remember when I first, because they had paid me a lot of money to go over to Comerica when I wound up going to Comerica. Comerica Bank, it's mainly a bank that was based off of wealth management, but then they wanted me to come in and redo the user experience and build out a whole practice there or whatever, right? And so they paid me a crazy amount of money in order to work there because it was brand new, and I chose to work there instead of working at Google at the time. And it was the best move that I ever made. It was very, very difficult building out a UX practice at a traditional company, but it was worth it. Um, I got a huge offer, and I actually vlogged about it on the Anton Daniels channel. And I'll actually share that vlog with you guys if I could find it tomorrow, because I've created so many videos at this point. I had got a massive offer. It was from I got two offers, right? About 2.5 years into my tenure there, I had got two offers. One of them was from a healthcare company, and another one was from, at the time, it was called CompuWare. And I had actually did a vlog and a video where I was saying that, you know, I remember before when I had interviewed at CompuWare that they had rejected me because they didn't think that I was going to be good enough for the position. But then they doubled back after I had got more experience and I got some successes. And then they came and they tried to recruit me to offer me, and they offered me a crazy amount of money, which I wound up turning down. Um, and one of the reasons that I wound up turning it down is because I actually had put in, and I had a conversation with my manager at the time, and I said, "Yo, I'm gonna be leaving the company probably within 2 to 3 weeks. I got to make sure that everything is archived, and we got all of it inside of a repository. A repository is where you keep your assets and everything, and I want to make sure that we have a good transition when I leave." Man, they absolutely was not trying to let me go, and they was like, "Listen, can I ask you?" And he asked me straight up. He said, "Listen, how much they paying you?" And I wouldn't tell him because I had a number in my head. I didn't. Here's the beautiful part about it, and this is what I always tell people again about negotiations. I was ready to leave. I already had this crazy offer in my back pocket, and I was ready to go. No, Comerica Bank is an old job that I used to have. I don't work there no more. I was already ready to go. And so I had got the offer letter, the offer sheet. They sent me the offer sheet and the offer letter. I had two offer letters. I already knew I wasn't going to one company, but I used that as leverage in order to be able to have a conversation because I didn't know that they was going to come back and say, "Hold on, wait. I don't want you to go." You know what I'm saying? And he said, "Listen." And once I realized that I had them on their edge, on their heels, it was over. It was nothing that it was no negotiation that I was not gonna win because I realized that, wait a minute, they gonna overpay me crazy in order to try to keep me. So I'm not tripping because I already got this new offer in my back pocket. And you got it right, Osriel. I wasn't bluffing. It wasn't nothing to bluff about. I was ready to leave. I was literally in there having a conversation with him about when I was going to put in my 2 weeks because I was just, I was being good with the company. And so now he was like, "Yo, what are they paying you over there?" I said, "Nah," I just kind of laughed it off like, eh. Literally the next day, he brought me into the office and he gave me another offer. It was crazy. And guess what? I turned it down. He gave me an offer that was bigger than what my current offer was where I was leaving, but I turned it down because I already knew that they was going to come back. Whatever they was offering me, they had some more wiggle room in there. And I was willing to walk away, which is one of the reasons why men in corporate America most times make more than women. They're not negotiating based off of duress. They're negotiating based off of being in a position of power. It's different. It's 100% different. So then I was like, that's not making sense to me. Then he came back and he asked me, because now I got a number to stand on. He said, what is it gonna take in order for us to make this right? Then I hit him with a number that was a lot bigger than that. And they was like, okay. I actually felt stupid when I hit him with the next number because they accepted too fast, which means that I already knew that there was some more wiggle room in there, but I was happy. I was satisfied. The company was happy. I was happy. My family was happy. I was in a position to start really being able to take care of my parents. That's when I really started investing even more into other businesses outside of real estate. That's at the time that I actually started building out the restaurant. I wound up spending $114,000 of my own money in order to build out the restaurant, and the rest is history, and we go from there. You know what I'm saying? But my point is that when you negotiate or when you have these conversations, don't do it based off of a threat. Don't do it based off of being under duress. Do it authentically based off of the fact that you have other options, which then puts you in a position of power. Anyway.